SportsLocker, presented by Old National Bank, starts now.
The countdown is on. 42 hours from the NFL's roster cut day. Good evening and welcome into SportsLocker Sunday, everyone. A full house tonight. Look at this esteemed panel we got going on here. Mike Wells, James Boyd, Stephen Holder. I'm Angela Moryan. Thanks for joining us. Sports Buzz tonight. We got a lot to talk about, gentlemen, with the Colts.
There's nothing going on. What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay. Your phone is never off, Stephen.
No.
I know it's not. Let's just talk about the big topic that everybody's so concerned about.
What could that be?
Running back Jonathan Taylor. Do I need to tell you more, James?
I mean, I don't know who he is, where he's been, what's going on with him. But, I mean, we'll start with he's still with the team, kind of not with the team, and nothing really changed on that front. But, I mean, I read through the CBA for JT. My brother, there is not a way out unless they trade you. And if they don't trade you, you're going to have to play for the Colts this season.
So let's take a step back. He did travel to Philadelphia with the Colts for that last preseason game. Still on the physically unable to perform list as per head coach Shane Steichen yesterday. He can be traded. He's allowed to seek a trade. But, Stephen, what's the deal here? Is he going to be traded?
It could happen. I mean, we'll see. We got, what did we say? 42 hours? Okay, right? So, look, we've got time, and there is some motive, right? That doesn't mean it happens, but there is some motive. Look, the Colts, they have an issue on their hands, and it doesn't mean trading him is the only solution, but it is a solution. So that's why I think you still have to keep this on the table. The Miami Dolphins are involved. We know for the Dolphins, their goals are the Super Bowl. Well, they've got to go through the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills. Aaron Rodgers is hanging out in their division these days. So they're facing a gauntlet right now. So for them, there's motivation too. It really is, I think, going to boil down to those two teams. Unless there's someone that no one sees coming, those two teams are going to have to work this out for it to happen. It could happen, but the interesting possibility is Jonathan Taylor coming back and reintegrating. That I want to be there for. That would be interesting.
Here's the thing. I think Jonathan Taylor played himself. I think he made a mistake by getting rid of his agent, changing his agent. Steven, you know he had that veteran agent. He goes with a young guy who Shaq Leonard also has. And he's a little raw behind the ears, in my opinion. He was trying to get greedy out there. And I get what JT was trying to do. Look at it like rookie quarterback. They need me. They need me to be able to take some of the pressure off of Anthony Richardson, the rookie, so teams can't just blitz. But now, I mean, JT's going out to Philly to get a cheesesteak and stuff. That's the only thing that brother's doing these days because he's not getting on the football field. It is a sad situation. But you think about when the Colts drafted him a couple years ago, he was the real deal. He came as a rookie once Marlon Mack got injured and took off. But last season, the injuries, the lack of production, and now he's sitting here in a sweatsuit in 100-degree heat up there in Grand Park, sweating his behind off, not out there playing with the Colts.
James, what is the solution for this whole situation?
The solution is money, but the money...
I don't have any. Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
But, I mean, I don't think that there is a clear path to a solution. I think the relationship has been fractured, very public. A lot of the tweets that were sent out, you can't take them back at this point. So it feels like unless the Colts get some sort of buy-in from JT, the easiest solution would be to trade him, get rid of the issue. But right now, if he is brought back, like Holder said, I just don't understand how he's going to be in the locker room every week and it gets better because we're going to ask about it. I'm going to ask about it every single week. Why you're here, how long you're going to be here, what's next for you, because clearly he does not want to be here.
But he made a great point, though. He said the tweets, and it's not just the tweets from Jonathan Taylor's agent. We're talking about Jim Irsay, too, who always seems to be very trigger-happy when it comes to putting tweets out there and everything. So it's not a one-way street where it's, okay, Jonathan Taylor's agent is the only one to blame out here. Irsay couldn't resist himself. And I know Stephen talked to him, and Irsay said those comments weren't, directed at Jonathan Taylor specifically. But the reality is, we know how this works. You put something out there, and you got a running back that is not happy, everybody's going to assume, and we know what assume means.
Well, at that point, Jim Irsay's playing defense. If you're playing defense, you're losing in that situation. Are you trying to convince, the public and the person you're talking about that it's not about them? You're trying to put the genie back in the bottle at that point, and it's too late. So I just think that no one has truly handled this well. And I would also say that no one's position is technically wrong. It's not wrong for Jonathan Taylor to say, hey, the way these other running backs are getting treated, I'm going to make sure I'm different, and I'm going to stand up for mine. And it's not wrong for the Colts to say, you're under contract, and you got to do what you got to do. So that's what makes the solution tough.
Neither position is particularly strong either on either side of the thing. All of this Jonathan Taylor madness has overshadowed what you would think would have been the #1 story of this season, which is rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson. He finished his first preseason as the 4th overall pick for the Indianapolis Colts, 13 of 19, 145 yards, 1 interception, 45 rushing yards. Folks, are we impressed?
I'll take it. I'll take it. Look, I think he is further along than the Colts thought he was going to be, and further along than where a lot of people who observe the NFL thought he was going to be. So I think you would take it. Look, I mean, frankly, he looks very comfortable too, and looks like he's at ease back there, which is not always the case for a rookie. James,
how concerned are you with accuracy, though, that we've seen in this preseason?
I'm not too concerned with it because that's an issue we all knew was going to kick up, but the offset is the big playability and also his legs. I think he gets out of a lot of plays because watching him in preseason, a lot of those plays would have been sacks last year and probably fumbles, and he makes up for it with his legs. So I do think that he's getting there. He's better when he gets his feet set, which is the biggest thing for him. But overall, you have to anticipate that was going to happen because he's so raw. 13 starts, only 6 in high school, so 19 over the last few years of his life.
Mike, can he be successful in this first year without Jonathan Taylor or that caliber of a running back in the backfield?
Listen, Shane Steichen better be a genius if Anthony Richardson is going to have a lot of success without Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. And I think, one thing that drives me crazy is people who just simply look at the box score and look at the stats and say, oh my God, he can't throw the football. Look at the stats of Anthony Richardson. You got to look at the game. You got to go deeper than just the stats. You got to see how it's happening. Again, you're playing with backup O-linemen at times. You're out there and not having all your starters. You got to look at the big picture. What he's doing when he's moving without the football, tucking it and running. Don't just simply, if you're looking at just the stats, go play video games or something. That's what I believe it should happen. But, what the Colts need out of Anthony Richardson, I think we can all agree, is that they're going to struggle this season likely. But they need to say, okay, we have our quarterback. Now we have to get pieces around Anthony Richardson on the roster. The quarterback spot, finally, as Stephen Holder's going to say, thank you, Jesus, it's finally resolved. They're not having to deal with an offseason of quarterback questions and say, let's just use the draft, and maybe get Marvin Harrison Jr. to get another wide receiver. They just need. Oh, I'm going to throw that out there. I'm throwing it out there. Go ahead and just say, quarterback's fine. Now add everything else.
One quick point, Mike, you just made the point about not just looking at the stats. And here's a great example. Thursday night in Philadelphia, you saw an example of what happened to Anthony Richardson at Florida a lot of times, which is his receivers not making plays for him. I mean, his numbers look terrible on paper, and then you watch the game, and that's 6 of 17, I believe. It really wasn't indicative of that kind of performance. So hopefully they can make some plays for him, but that is something that victimized him in college too.
Look a little bit more with a magnifying glass, less at the box score is what I'm getting. Yeah. All right, let's talk about defense. Linebacker Shaquille Leonard out with concussion after the Bears joined practice, still in concussion protocol. Head coach Shane Steichen says he should be back. He's doing really well. Hopefully we'll see him at practice this week. However, folks, let's talk about the elephant in the room. How concerning is this that Leonard is once again on an injured list? Will the Maniac be fully back this season? James, let's start with you.
I think he has a chance to be. I understand that he's been through a lot emotionally, a lot physically, obviously. But I think the biggest thing for him is just, can he get out there and just play the game? Because right now, I think what he's up against is the health questions. If it's not one thing, it's another. Can you go out there and play? And then on top of that, once he's out there consistently, are you that player you used to be? He has to answer that for himself, for his team. And quite honestly, I'll put it out there is an out for the Colts next year if he isn't playing up to the $20 million a year that he's getting. So this, to me, is a very big year in his career.
Mike, he's such a fan favorite. How concerned should these fans be that they'll even get to see Leonard performing well on the field this year?
The reality is every time Darius Leonard comes in and takes a big hit, stays on the ground for longer than 2 seconds, people are going to be worried because of the back situation that he had. And, James made a great point. Not only are these physical questions, but where is Shaq Leonard at mentally? Listen, you're talking about a player who would spend the offseason posting his workouts on social media. I don't think he posted a lot of that. He was very quiet when it came to that. And He came into the NFL with the chip on his shoulder trying to prove everybody wrong. Here's an opportunity for him to say, okay, I'm back. But it's very quiet right now. So I think he knows there's questions on if he can stay healthy for the long term with the Indianapolis Colts.
James, final word.
Yeah, but that about being back, I do think the moment he makes a play, everyone in Indianapolis, including me in the locker room and everyone else, will know that he made that play.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we're not letting you guys leave just yet, but let's take a little bit of a break because we have talked about a lot, and there's still much more Colts conversation to come. Welcome back into SportsLocker Sunday. We got our esteemed panel for Sports Buzz tonight, but I think it's more like a shoe night. Look at these kicks you guys got rolling on here.
Listen, I didn't get the memo.
Where are your sneakers?
Listen, I didn't get the memo. I mean, I got the suit game going. Colder normally comes sharp, but
James keeping me young. So. Hey, listen, I've been wearing a suit every day on SportsCenter. I'm tired. I need a break.
He wears shorts with the Blazers. I'm letting it out. I'm letting it out. All right, let's talk about this roster cut day. Tuesday, 4 p.m. Teams must be finalized to a 53-man roster. A lot of decisions for General Manager Chris Ballard to make. Steven, let's start with you. What is that biggest position battle you still see needs deciding on?
I think the position that to me is really interesting is tight end. I mean, I could project 5 guys at that tight end unit if you wanted to actually go through with it. I mean, when I did a roster prediction, like my bosses made me, I sat there and I was like, I don't want to cut any of these guys. And I just said, well, it's mine. I can keep 5. And I did. So we'll see. It's a really high number, but I think that is one spot. And then there are a few other hot spots, but for me, that's the tough one because I think they like all those young guys. And frankly, they can really develop something with that quarterback, this new young quarterback, Anthony Richardson, and I know Shane Steichen coming from Philadelphia. They made good use of tight ends too, so I think there's a lot of potential for success in that unit, but they got to figure out who they like.
James, what position are you still most concerned about?
Running back. Because
running back.
You went out on that one.
I'm serious because Tuesday matters because everyone has speculated, is JT really hurt? Is he holding out because he's mad with the franchise? We will find out how hurt he is by Tuesday at 4 p.m. because if he's still on that PUP list to start the season, he has to miss the first 4 games of the year. And that factors into if he can get an accrued season and basically become free of his rookie deal after this year, if he's still on the team. So that's something to keep in mind. And if he is moved on from, they trade him, what do you have behind him? Not much. I get it. Everyone's very high on Evan Hull and other running backs right now. But everyone's high in the preseason when nothing's going on until you actually play games. You realize you're missing an all-pro running back.
I'll piggyback real quick on that. I want to push back on that, exactly, that idea that I'm hearing this a lot, that they got a lot of talent behind JT. You do not have anything approaching that level of explosiveness. And his explosiveness has been, I think, he's been the preeminent explosive runner at his position, period, in the NFL the last 3 years.
James, you brought up Evan Hull. Let's talk about the rookies. Tuesday is going to be big for especially the draft picks. Juju Brents, Josh Downs, Evan Hull, Darius Rush, Will Mallory. Who do we like? Who has impressed the most out of this rookie class so far?
I think one dark horse candidate for me has been Jalen Jones. 6th round pick, or actually 7th round pick, I was correct. He's someone who, 5-star recruit coming out of high school, didn't really go as he planned it at Texas A&M, but sort of an underdog story, very humble kid and someone who seems like he's taken every advantage of his opportunities, and I'm happy to see him succeeding, and I have him on my 53-man roster right now.
Yeah, you saw the video of Josh Downs just now. I mean, he has to get a shot at. I mean, Josh Downs, although could have had a better performance in the preseason finale, but Josh Downs is going to play a lot of snaps for this team this year.
And he's on my fantasy team, so I need him to play a lot of snaps.
Well,
all right.
Good choice.
I'm not to cut us off, but we got to talk about the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton signing a franchise record-breaking deal, 5-year, $260 million extension. Mike, let's start with you. How much does Halliburton bring to this team to make him worth $260 million?
You think about the history of the Pacers. I spent 8.5 years covering this franchise, and they thought they had it with Jermaine O'Neal, Danny Granger, Paul George, Victor Oladipo. Now it is clearly Tyrese Halliburton's team. It's his franchise, and what I like is he's with Team USA right now overseas. He's getting that experience playing under Steve Kerr and being able to develop even more on how to be a leader. And I think you're going to see that carry over this season because the Pacers are at the point now where there's no more teetering to get into the playoff, into the play-in. They have to get to the point now where they got to be in position to compete for home court in the first round of the playoffs, which means a 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. And let's be real, we know the West, it's a dominant conference. So now it's like the Pacers have to take that leap next year, and I think Tyrese is ready to lead them in that direction.
They've made the offseason moves to get to that point. James, President Kevin Pritchard had some huge draftings, some huge signings, Obi Toppin, Bruce Brown, for example. Who is the most key pivotal player that they signed this offseason to bring the Pacers success?
I think it is Bruce Brown. It brings him a lot of defense, a lot of energy. He has that championship DNA. I think it's a bit overrated. It counts, but it helps him play with the Joker, who's the best player in the league.
Right.
But I do think that he brings a lot that they needed last year. And the Pacers can score with anybody. It's can you stop somebody? And like you said about Tyrese being overseas and playing with Team USA, he has to be engaged more on defense as well as the team's leader. You have to be great. You got to try. You got to be engaged. And I do think that if he does that and leads this team, they should be a playoff team. I don't know about top 4 seed, but get in there, avoid the play-in, and give the city something to celebrate in basketball at that time of the year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, the biggest addition is not somebody signed, but Benedict Mathurin moving into the starting lineup. Only started 17 games last year, averaged 17 points. Now he and Tyrese, the 1-2 scoring punch for the Pacers. I can't wait. I'm going to be up in Cambridge checking them out with my popcorn chilling all season.
And not working. Especially that part.
Hey, you put his 8 years in.
Mike, James, Steven, thank you guys so much for breaking all of this down for us on the Sports Buzz.